Welcome to Podcasts Like It's the 1990s, the podcast we talk about the films of the 90s, standing on a hilltop in the rain saying Willoughby here in 2025. I'm your host, Phil Iskov, and with me today to wrap up our Patreon miniseries on the 1995 Best Actress nominations are two of my favorite actors, Tom Meissen and Katie McGrath. Thank you so much for joining me. Silence. Perfect.
No,
I'm actually alone. I'm actually alone. There's no one here. I'm going to pretend.
No, I didn't. It threw me. You saying that it was part of the miniseries about
It's
that.
the last one.
You told me this.
I did tell you. I did tell you guys this, but that's fine. You don't. It's fine. You're in Serbia. It's fine. This is the end of this miniseries of 5 films and 5 performances. Susan Sarandon for Dead Man Walking, Elizabeth Shue for Leaving Las Vegas, Meryl Streep for Bridges in Madison County, Sharon Stone for Casino, and Emma Thompson for Sense and Sensibility. It's quite 5 bangers. Yeah. And interestingly, like I feel as though like Emma Thompson's oeuvre is so big, like she's made so many things that like this just feels like one of them, if that makes sense. And it's an amazing performance, but it just doesn't. Do you know sort of what I'm getting at? Like
I do know what you mean. That she's one of those who you just know that she's going to be good. You just expect, oh, it's Emma Thompson, it's going to be amazing. And then when
the iconography of her,
surprised that it's incredible.
It feels to me,
and also
like,
she doesn't piss about. She doesn't piss about with, except for Nanny McPhee putting on all of the stuff.
Sure.
She doesn't muck about with any of that.
No,
she's just completely. She's straight and she's honest and she's brilliant.
And Harry Potter.
And Harry Potter, she does. I mean, they're all. I mean, half this cast is in Harry Potter, but I do feel like it's. I think part of it for me too with this particular film. Did you guys see this in theaters? Or were you too young when this came out? You're both too young, right?
I didn't see anything.
Yeah. All right. Must be nice. I saw this in theaters. I was 15. And I was not, and we've talked about this, Tom, when we did our Howard's End episode for 92, that like, I'm just not the biggest period piece person.
You were a 15-year-old boy and you went to see Sense and Sensibility in the cinema?
Don't leave it. I let that one lie.
Okay, sorry.
I didn't see it with my friends. I mean, it wasn't like, I mean, I probably saw it with my parents, but like, I was...
Call around the guys, say, "Hey guys, hey, who's up for this sensibility film?" Huh?
I think part of it was, and we've discussed this, but like I was a big sort of like kind of film Oscar snobby kid, and I knew that this had sort of the patina of Academy Award potential, and so I saw it. I probably saw it with my parents, but either way, I did see it. But ultimately, what I was sort of getting at is that, like, I'm just not a big British period piece person.
Well, you weren't, and you would say you still aren't.
I think there are things like the creme de la creme, the stuff that's like rises to the top. I'm like, yes, I'm going to see this stuff, and it's all very good. And I love this movie, but I think part of why this is my favorite Jane Austen adaptation is the Ang Lee component. There's this sort of, I don't want to say idiosyncratic, but like he has such a light touch, and you can sense that there's a different culture and a different vision sort of infused into this.
Can I ask something?
Yeah, please.
When you, as a non-Brit, well, as 2 non-Brits, think about period pieces.
Yes.
What's the cutoff point that it starts to become period? What decade or?
Well, surely that's moving all the time.
It's true.
Yeah. I mean, the 90s, something in the 90s is a period piece. Now,
oh, I see. Oh, no.
Period.
I think of costume dramas. That is period to me.
So it's like this. It's
Yes.
Right.
I guess there's a world where I would say probably the cutoff is like the 50s. Like the 1950s, anything.
Would you have thought when we
that?
spoke about Howard's End, period piece?
Right.
But it's now these Austen adaptations in particular have become ubiquitous with the term.
Correct.
Right. Okay.
I think that I mean, and I don't want to paint with too broad a brush, but I imagine that most people when they think of when you say period piece in a
Period piece,
negative sense,
you think of corsets and frock coats and all the rest of it.
yes, a whole lot of yeah, and like class warfare, right? Like just the haves and have-nots. It feels so, you know what I mean? Like
Yes, luckily that all ended in the
Here.
Regency
One
period.
second here. Hold on. You say you're not big into costume. Didn't you do a whole show with Tom in costume?
Yes,
Yeah,
but that was a
68.
supernatural show with monsters, baby.
And you think that that's mutually exclusive? I'm sorry. No, it was still a period book and a period piece with supernatural elements. So
This is true. Yes. The short answer to your point is yes.
Wasn't Tom wearing a frock coat?
In flashbacks.
You're splitting hairs here now.
I think that you're absolutely right that I guess to answer your grander question here is that I think by infusing the genre parts into it, it made it feel less period, less stuffy, less sort of and us literally twisting history to infuse monsters into it does feel less period to me. Like I guess to your point, like
right, because Frankenstein never did that.
He didn't do that shit. No, I'm kidding. But like I guess Game of Thrones is also period technically, right? Like I mean, the Merlin show that you were on was period, 100%. But had wizards. So I don't know. I mean,
who's to say that didn't really exist, guys? Come on.
We don't know.
Exactly. You read your Geoffrey of Monmouth, and that'll tell you all about.
Geoffrey of Monmouth was in Merlin, so listen, it was historically. He was.
No way.
He did, yeah. The guys, they were really quite clever with how they included. We're going off on a complete tangent here, but quite clever how they included all the bits from those times and all the, Sorry, my brain is fried now.
But they tried to do this. You guys might remember when they did the mashup stuff with Jane Austen, like the Sense and Sensibility and Zombies or whatever, Pride and Prejudice and Zombies, and like Sense and Sensibility and Sea Monsters or whatever. Like they tried to kind of, like they tried to jam these two things together, which I would argue didn't totally work, but I commend the effort.
I'm afraid they passed me by.
Pride and Prejudice and Zombies?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I find that no way shocking.
I don't know that this movie needs wizards, right? Like, I don't know that this movie. I think what's great about this movie is that it doesn't.
It's a lack of wizards.
It's a lack of sea monsters, for instance. What's interesting also about this film is probably the first Jane Austen movie I saw. There was a Jane Austen boom that happened in the 90s. I don't count. Yeah, sorry. Go ahead.
We just had Colin coming out of a lake, hadn't we? So we just had Pride and Prejudice, the BBC ones.
Correct.
Was that early 90s? Or was
I believe it was 95.
Was it 95? So it was all at the same time.
I think it was.
And then this was what, 96?
No,
this is 95 as well.
95. And then Emma is 96 because after I rewatched Sense and Sensibility, I was like, I'm going to watch Emma straight after it.
Right. And then also in 95, you have Clueless, which is an adaptation of Emma.
Which is way better.
Which is better.
Which is the best
Clueless is a
film? Is that what you were going to say?
It is the best Jane Austen movie. I mean, it just is. Yes, The Pride and Prejudice, 1995, BBC, Colin Firth, Jennifer Ehle. I don't know how you say her name. Ely.
I would have said
so that was 6 episodes in September and October of 95 that came out. Oh. So 95 was just like a crazy Jane Austen moment. And then we also have like
finally made it in 95.
She finally broke out. And then a few years, I guess not a few years later, 10 years later, we have the 05 Pride and Prejudice with Keira Knightley. And I feel like that starts kind of a second wave of Jane Austen stuff. What are your thoughts on the 2005 Pride and Prejudice?
I remember when
crickets.
No, it's a love. Personally, I think it's a lovely movie, and I think everybody did a lovely job. It's very hard to follow the TV series, which has so many iconic moments that it's hard. It can't exist in isolation. Do you know what I mean? And 6 episodes you can do more with than a movie. Do you know what I mean? Because it's quite a long book.
Sure.
And there's quite a lot in it. So
Sure.
I thought, I don't know about you, I thought it was a lovely movie. I thought they all did a lovely job and it was beautifully shot. But I still prefer the TV series.
So I've never read any Jane Austen. Have you guys read Jane Austen?
Yes. Katie's
Not
read
all.
everything that's ever been written.
I haven't read all of the Jane Austens, but I have read Pride and Prejudice. Which is lovely.
You're a voracious reader, apparently. I didn't know this.
Oh yeah, I was showing this to.
You were showing earlier the Alan Rickman.
Oh yes, I've read that and it's beautiful.
I need to read that.
He honestly, you will come away with such a growl for him.
I texted Tom the other day that Tim Curry announced a biography, a memoir that's coming out later this year, and I was like, the second I saw it, I was like, this feels like it was made for Tom.
I love Tim Curry, like love.
He's doing the audiobook as well, and
he's doing the audiobook.
Like he's just talking me to sleep every night.
And he'll do characters. I can only assume it's going to be incredible.
And Anthony Hopkins has his memoir coming out this year as well.
I believe so.
But that's a good look. That's Christmas sorted. That's all I know.
So, Katie, do you have a favorite Jane Austen book?
Probably Pride and Prejudice, actually.
Okay.
Yeah, I do. Because I do. And I think the TV adaptation is so. It's so more true to the book because personally, I'm sorry, I believe Keira Knightley was too beautiful to play Eliza Bennet.
Interesting.
She's so beautiful. You can't imagine that every man isn't going to completely fall in love with her straight away, even Darcy. But in the TV series, there was something about Jennifer, I'm saying Ely and I might be saying it wrong. Tom probably knows because he's much better at these things than I am. That
I won't correct you.
She becomes more, she's a beautiful woman, but whatever way they shot her, she becomes more beautiful as the episodes go on. And by the end of it, you think she's the most beautiful woman on the planet, but you don't feel like that at the start, or at least I didn't. Mm-hmm. And I think that's really important. Not just the physicality, but the whole idea of her as an attractive character, because they're both proud. You know, it's not just him. And you really get that through the TV series in the 6 episodes, the ability to see them change, you know, through knowing each other and through the events of the book.
You know, what's interesting, we talked about Bridget Jones's Diary previously to this, which is an adaptation of Pride and Prejudice to some degree or another as well. And so Colin Firth feels like he is a generation's Darcy, right? Like there's just kind of no way around it. However, if you ask like my roommate who adores the '05 Pride and Prejudice, Matthew McFadden is her Darcy now. And it is just interesting how like, it's just, yes.
Did you hear today they've announced a new Pride and Prejudice for Netflix with Emma Corrin as Eliza, Jack Lowden as Darcy, and Olivia Williams as probably Mrs. Bennet, I assume.
And it's Dolly Alderton, who adapted it, which is very cool. I loved her book, which I read last year. Very curious to see what shakes out of that. I would argue Emma Corrin also perhaps too beautiful to play Elizabeth, but
I also think Jack Lowden isn't necessarily manly enough to be Darcy. He seems more Bingley to me. Not that Bingley isn't manly, but do you know what I mean?
He seems, I think he's a great actor.
I think he's a wonderful actor.
Yes,
but he seems short to me, and Darcy feels
like
tall.
Daniel Craig is short, like powerful and short.
Right? Yes.
Do you know what I mean?
Short
like,
kings across the board
funny,
here,
isn't it?
Yeah.
When you think of Darcy, you think of Darcy, you think of Heathcliff.
Right.
And all of these guys have to be very tall,
very tall,
dark,
and very brooding.
Yes.
So I'm just like Jack Lowden. I see him with Saoirse all the time, and I'm like, they look adorable. They seem like a great couple. He's not Darcy. Like it doesn't. But anyway.
But I think part of that also is that and I'm sure you guys will, the archetype in my head is Colin Firth. That's what it is, and everyone else has to measure up to that. Yes. And I guess that's just because it's like who's your Batman? Do you know what I mean? It's kind of the same thing. It's like who's your Darcy? Who's your Darcy? Who's your Bond? Who's your Batman? You know.
Laurence Olivier played Richard III.
Mm.
No one would touch it for years and years and years afterward because
Huh.
he was
He
the
crushed it. It was like, you can't touch it.
crushed it. That's what they all said. Oh, Larry, you fucking smashed it. You fucking smashed it, the third mate. Um, and so no one would go near it for years and years and years. And then suddenly there was about 10 or 15 years afterwards, there was an outburst of suddenly everyone saying, well, maybe we could have a crack at it. But everyone was still remembering Larry. And that's the same with Darcy. You know, every now and then people would say, maybe it's time for another shot. And we all miss Colin.
He's really, what I do find interesting about all of this is that I don't feel like, and I think that the male characters in Sense and Sensibility are good, but like not even close to the iconography of Darcy, right? Like that's kind of the thing where, like, I think that, and we'll get into this, but like Emma Thompson's adaptation of the book, and again, I haven't read the book, but I've read about the differences between the book and the film, and the infusion that she had to do to get the male characters to a place where they felt even remotely feasible to these female characters is interesting.
Well, that's what I was going to say. Sense and Sensibility is a book about women,
right,
and about the relationships between women and sisters and their relationships with men. Pride and Prejudice is about a relationship between a man and a woman. Do you know what I mean? So she's written two very strong characters, but Sense and Sensibility, it isn't about the men. The men are secondary to the lives of the women, whereas Pride and Prejudice, they're very much interconnected. Right. So it makes sense that she had to not struggle, but do some work to bring them,
to beef them up.
Yeah, to bring them on the same level.
I haven't read the book, but yes, I did see that in particular. Edward was the character who everyone just found incredibly dull in the book. and that's one of the reasons why she apparently from the very beginning was like, it's got to be Hugh
Grant.
And it has to be, especially at that moment in his career, which we'll talk about. But let me give just a little bit of context for our listeners. When Eleanor Dashwood, played by Emma Thompson's father, dies, her family's finances are crippled after the Dashwoods moved to a cottage in Devonshire. Eleanor's sister Marianne, played by Kate Winslet, is torn between the handsome John Willoughby, played by Greg Wise, and the older Colonel Brandon, played by Alan Rickman. Meanwhile, Eleanor's romantic hopes with Edward Ferrars, played by Hugh Grant, are hindered due to his prior engagement. Both Eleanor and Marianne strive for love, while the circumstances in their lives constantly change. Sense and Sensibility opened on December 11th, 1995, against just a fucking Jumanji, Toy Story, Heat, Father of the Bride 2, Sabrina, and Goldeneye. I mean, just
when there were movies, guys.
I hate whenever you read out what was released that weekend. I
know it crushes.
The same weekend?
Yes. It was just like you had a time when it was just where variety was the goal, right? Which is we want to make a movie we want there to be something in cinemas for everyone, not one movie that speaks to everyone. And it sucks.
Yeah, because when you try to make a movie that speaks to everyone, you get the blandest movie.
You get
because you don't make an interesting choice. You make the choice everyone can agree on, which is not the choice. Yeah.
Right. It's just like
also when I was looking this up and I saw that the budget is 16 million. I'm like,
1.6.
No.
Those days when you can make 20 of those.
It's crazy. 16 million makes 135, right? So everyone is just, thrilled that this thing crushed. It just does unbelievably well at the box office. You're also going up against like heavy fucking hitters here, like Jumanji, Toy Story, and Heat, and Goldeneye. Like these are not small movies. And yet this movie obviously finds an audience. It's got 97% of Rotten Tomatoes from critics, 90% from audiences. It's nominated for Best Picture, Actress, Supporting Actress, Adapted Screenplay, Cinematography, Costume Design, and Score. It only wins Best Adapted Screenplay for Emma Thompson.
Was it Kate Winslet for supporting?
Yeah. She was 19 when she did this movie. 19.
She's so good in this movie.
Ugh.
I mean, Dame Emma Thompson became the first person to receive Oscars for acting and writing. Good on her, man. If you have not seen, to our listeners, her Golden Globe acceptance speech that she wrote from the perspective of Jane Austen, it is something to behold. It is amazing. It's really, really funny. And she's just taking the piss out of the whole thing and just it's wonderful. I love that this is the first screenplay she's ever done.
Yeah.
Like crazy.
But that gives me
Based
hope.
off,
I've never done a screenplay and I can't write, but maybe I'll just sit down and 5 years later out will come an Oscar winner.
Yeah,
I love that it was
crazy.
based off the producer had read some of her like sketches, just short comedy
Thought she was
sketches.
funny.
Oh,
I mean, I do love that. I mean, it is interesting that purists, Jane Austen purists at the time, were all up in arms about this movie, just even like when it was announced. They thought that Hugh Grant was quote unquote too attractive to play Edward. They took issue with Eleanor in the book is like 19.
yeah.
And Emma Thompson's like, so I can't pass for 19, but I can, we can find a way to sort of infuse more of the spinster fears
Well,
into
I read a quote from her when I was doing my research,
it.
and she said that she aged everyone up to account for the fact that people now live longer. So to get to the same point in their lives,
Totally.
she aged everybody up. My only negative point about this whole movie is I still think it bumps me, her playing. Just not her performance. Her performance is beautiful, everything about it. She
Right.
looks, she feels too old to play
Mm.
the character.
Yeah. I
It's the
don't
only-
read the book, so I don't have any context. So for
Mhm.
me, I'm just like, oh, she's just an older sister. I don't know. It didn't, but I totally hear you that like
Well, she's
without
so
the,
much older than Kate
she
Winslet.
is. She is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, how old do we think she's attempting to play in this? How old-
27, I heard. 27.
I saw 27,
Yeah.
Mm, okay.
but she was 30,
5.
Yeah.
30 fucking 5. 35, and she wrote this
I've
and
wasted my life.
to go with her Best Actress Oscar.
I've wasted my life, guys.
Oh,
God,
That's just
passing
not
by.
true. She's just better than we are. It's just that simple. I mean, like she's just better. And she is. I think there's something so. I mean, obviously, I've never met her, but seeing her in interviews, and I sent you guys that this Graham Norton clip of her and Hugh Grant together on Graham Norton a few years ago. She's just so normal. Like she doesn't seem like a fucking asshole. I don't know.
So years ago,
Sure.
I was doing fan mail
Mhm.
when I was on Merlin, and I got this really lovely, lovely note. And I don't know why I kept it, but I did. But I answer all my fan mail, or I try to. And I had written back and everything, and I had kept the note because it was just something very sweet. It was from a kid. It was very, very sweet. And I ended up getting another letter back from this kid. And she was like, thank you so much for your letter, blah, 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 blah. My mom is an actress. She's working with one of your actors. I think you may have heard of her. Her name's Emma Thompson. Included was a card from Emma Thompson going, thank you so much for being so sweet to write back to my daughter. I really appreciate it. Emma Thompson then gets my phone number from my agent, rings me up and asks me to come over for ham and cricket with her and Imelda Staunton.
What?
I'm making a ham, darling. Would you like
Wow.
to come play cricket with me and Imelda?
That's,
And I couldn't go.
What?
I couldn't go. I was in Sweden visiting my brother, and to this day, I can't ever let him. I went to
would
Sweden.
never
and I
don't
did
ever
play
let him
cricket with
forget.
Imelda Staunton and Emma Thompson.
That is a mic drop story. I can't believe you couldn't go.
I
That
know, but
is-
it was just so sweet because it was just so genuine. It was just like my daughter just really loves this show, and there was nothing name droppy. There was nothing granding. It was just like, listen, my daughter she really likes it, and thank you so much for writing back to her. And would you like to have some ham?
You should write to her now
You
and
should
say,
write to her now.
listen, if you've got another ham, I'm available.
And
Down for some bowling, guys.
that
Great.
is
I know.
unbelievable. And also just, I mean, goes to show how good a soul she is. Like that she just has this big heart and just, but I've never heard a bad thing about her
No.
in terms of
I know
just,
several people who have worked with her, and she
Really?
is one of the only people who no one has a bad word to say about her. And one of the people who worked with her said that she turns up on her first day having the entire crew list learnt so that she knows the names of everyone in the crew on the first day. And I just think it sounds like it doesn't sound like very much when you say it, but that is a huge deal and that means a lot. And the atmosphere on set when someone does that and she talks to everyone. She came to watch a play that I was in a couple of years ago. She and Greg came along and they couldn't stick around afterwards. So she came and watched it again so that she could come and talk to the actors afterward. And she went and spoke to everyone to talk about each of their characters. And I love her.
I mean, it's just yeah. Hearing both these stories just makes me so happy to know that she's as good as you think she is, right? That like she's not just a phenomenal actor and writer, but a good human is just and I guess on some level, I imagine whether we're conscious of it or not, it is infused in the performance, right? Like that there is just something about the way she is on screen that feels so human and lovely. She's so good in this movie. You know, you are pulling for Eleanor so hard through this entire movie, more so probably than anybody. Because as much as I love Marianne and I love Marianne, she's also kind of a bit of a young, annoying, like
she's very self-obsessed.
Right. And Eleanor's just not.
She's definitely this very young one who thinks that whatever she thinks is the right way to think and everybody else is wrong. Right. You know, like how could you not? I'm right. The impetus of youth type of thing, you know, impetuousness of youth. Whereas Eleanor's just she breaks your heart. You know.
I wonder whether do you think this is where actually the age helps? As an older, that much older.
Yep.
Yeah, that's a very good point.
A guide to the younger sister, but also feeling the responsibility because their mum is not much use to anyone.
Well, she's heartbroken. She's lost her husband.
Yeah,
she's her station in life and all her security and everything's been taken away from her, Tom.
It's true.
Sure. It's a Regency Schitt's Creek.
It really is. Yeah.
And so she's taking the burden of supporting her younger sister.
She's
and also
grown up in the family.
I guess there's, you know how sometimes on like American Idol or X Factor, as we call it, you get people, you know, Katie, don't shake your head, you know. Exactly.
No idea. Sorry.
And you get people who are like, oh, Simon Cowell, you go give me a chance. This is my last shot. This is my last chance. And they're like 15. It's my last chance to make it, Simon. No, fuck off. You're a child. Whereas with an older Eleanor, you really believe that this, where Edward goes, that's it. She's going to be a spinster now.
I think that the spectrum of all four of the Dashwoods, I think helps too, right? To have young Margaret, to have the older mother, and to have sort of these two sisters, like it just, I think it just gives a sort of their perspective of the world, I think is really helpful. And it helps. Again, having not read the book, I completely understand where you're coming from, Katie, in terms of Eleanor feeling too old. I want to just quickly shout out Greg Wise. It's Wise, correct? I'm saying I don't. Dated Kate Winslet, then married Emma Thompson.
A brief dalliance. Brief dalliance.
A brief dalliance with Kate Winslet.
She was 19.
Like, listen, I'm not poo-pooing this. I'm just like, this guy. That I don't know.
When you throw in she's 19.
What do I mean? I mean that, like.
Well, I know that
at his age, it probably wasn't going to be a long-term thing, and so you know, with Emma Thompson, then it's like marriage. Yes.
Greg Wise is 58 currently, and I think he's younger than Emma Thompson because she is 65 now. So my assumption is that he was probably in his late 20s, early 30s, something in that vicinity. I just love that he's still with Emma Thompson. I love that she married Willoughby. They had kids. And it's just wonderful. I think it's great. And he's great in this, even if Willoughby's a fucking dick. He's a beautiful man.
He's so beautiful.
Yeah. And you got to love those mutton chops that just accentuate his chiseled cheekbone.
Oh,
They work, okay?
They work.
They
He's a very
work.
attractive man.
He is.
He's very good in this. This cast across the board is crazy. When you've got Tom Wilkinson in one scene up top,
just die at the beginning.
you know you've got a stacked cast when you're killing off Tom Wilkinson in the first 5 minutes. It's unreal. I mean, obviously Hugh Laurie is hilarious in this movie and so droll. Harriet Walter, who's just,
Oh my God, I love her in this.
she's so good in this.
Ugh.
I mean, obviously I think that, current audiences know her as the mom to in Succession, to the children and she's amazing in that as well. She is so, there is something about her. I wish I don't know what it is, but there is like this cutting way that she's able to deliver. It kills you. I don't know how to explain it. The way she looks it's just amazing.
I think there are very few actors who you can give them any line,
Right.
and I would listen to her say anything because I think she will find
Yes.
the perfect Harriet Walter way to deliver any line. And so anytime she comes on screen or is on stage, it's exciting to see how she. I saw her a few years ago playing Brutus in an all-female Julius Caesar.
Amazing.
It's one of the best things I've ever seen. She's
That's
just
incredible.
so good.
She has this. There is like a
Well, they Cleopatra as well, opposite Patrick Stewart's Antony, which
He was with Patrick
yeah.
Stewart. Oh my God, it would have
Yeah.
been amazing.
she
yeah,
has
half
this
of that
like.
show was great.
I wonder which half. It'll be a mystery, really. She has a melodious quality to her voice as well that I
It's
think
so
is
unique. It's
Right?
so
Also
unique.
weirdly nasal. It's nasal but melodious.
Yes. This movie essentially opens with her just destroying the Dashwoods through passive aggression.
So good. So good. And she's just so satisfied by the end of it. You're just
is.
like, oh, she's so pleased with herself.
That she's able to end this route by basically saying, like, I'm not even convinced your father wanted to give them money.
Pounds now and then would amply.
It is incredible. She's amazing. Obviously, we talked, and we'll talk about them more, but, Alan Rickman and Hugh Grant, who play sort of the men vying for the attentions to some degree of the Dashwoods. Speaking of age differences, again, have not read the book, and I know that in the book, Brandon is significantly older,
Yeah,
right?
he's
So
in
this
his mid-30s.
Okay.
Yeah, to her 17 in the book.
It was a different time.
It was a different time, guys.
But it is interesting how, even if it does irk me a little bit, just because we live in 2025 and Alan Rickman's significantly older than Kate Winslet, he makes it work because he's so sort of soft and lovely, and just it's really wonderful.
I can't believe that he wasn't nominated.
It's crazy.
I know.
I think he's so remarkable in it.
But this is the problem with the Academy. None of these were showy performances.
No. It's like we said earlier
even
about
the ones that are over the top, like Imelda Stone, they're not showy. They're not, but they're not. Like, they're all good. Like Elizabeth Spriggs as Jennings is so good. But they're not, you're watching a masterclass in underplaying and a perfect performance, not an Oscar sparkle performance. And nothing against, those types. Do you know what I mean? It's a very different thing that I don't know would translates as well.
Well, I think it speaks to the Emma Thompson of it all, that because she wins for Howard's End, she's nominated for Remains of the Day, she's nominated for this as well. Emma Thompson breaks through to Academy voters in a way that some of these other people don't. And that's not to in any way denigrate these other performances. But I think there is something about Emma Thompson that feels, I don't know if it's bigger or if it just, there's something about it. Cause I do think, like, as I mentioned, we talked Howard's End and she's great in that movie, but like, that's not a showy movie. I mean, it's showy in the sense of it being a Merchant Ivory movie, but like it's not, as you said, all these performances are all really dialed down.
But do you think there's something in the fact that they'll recognize a woman for a performance like that, but a man being masculine but playing it very soft and confident doesn't translate to,
Totally.
do you know what I mean?
Absolutely, absolutely. Looking at the people that were nominated, that because Alan Rickman, as you said, was not. The nominees that year were Tim Roth for Rob Roy, a subtle performance. Tim Roth always going low. Brad Pitt for 12 Monkeys, Ed Harris for Apollo 13, James Cromwell for Babe, and the winner was Kevin Spacey for The Usual Suspects, a man who's done nothing wrong, obviously. Kidding for our listeners. I do think you look at those 5 performances, right? And I actually think the James Cromwell performance is quite soft and quite
beautiful.
It's beautiful.
Beautiful.
But I think he's getting in under a surprising, kind of shocking love that the Academy had for Babe, a movie I love, by the way, but not a movie that you would ever expect the Academy to be into. Yeah, he's amazing in it. But to your point, like I think James Cromwell probably got Alan Rickman's nomination if I'm looking at these 5.
But James Cromwell is a strong, silent man. Do you know what I mean? He's playing a very masculine role. And I think Brandon for me is very masculine, but I don't think translates in the same way. Totally. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, he's reading sonnets.
But he does it so well.
He does it wonderfully.
So well.
But I think
better than Willoughby.
Far better. I mean, who carries him around with him in his little fucking miniature version?
I know the girls are practically having an orgasm when he takes them out. They're like,
it's incredible.
It's so good.
Sorry, Tom, what were you going
to say? Okay, so to risk the wrath of Austinites, she does have types. The characters, there's types that go through all of her work.
100%.
And I don't mean that as a huge criticism. And Brandon is a very, very obvious type. And he's far from being the best written character she wrote, best written man. Mm-hmm. And I really do think in anyone's hands other than his, it would have been, it's a part that could have disappeared. I was watching it thinking, how does he become he's the leading man in this? And he shouldn't be. You know, you've got to root for Edward. Of course, you've got to root for Willoughby, and then Willoughby's the bastard. And he's Brandon's just this thread throughout all of it, which is incredibly boring. And that's the part. If you were going to say, if you're going to ask me which part I would want to play of the men, on the page, it probably wouldn't be Brandon. But then watching Rickman do it, you think this is the best men's part ever written by anyone.
Oh, the moment, his first bit where he comes in and you first shot where you see him see Kate Winslet and you're just like, that look is his entire backstory is in that one look. I'm like, everything. I have everything there. Eliza, I have it all. It's all there.
But I was just going to say, like, part of so much of Brandon is silent, to your point, Tom, right? Like, so much of it is him standing in the background of scenes or just looking. It's a look that Rickman gives that just absolutely breaks your heart, right? Like you're just, I also think it's worth noting too, that the scene where basically he has to barf up a shit ton of expositional dialogue about what Willoughby did to his ward and all this shit that was originally apparently in the script going to be shown in flashbacks, which thank God it wasn't. But it's a testament, and I'm sure you both have had to do this as actors. It's not easy to do expositional dialogue and make it seem graceful and make it seem. He is so good in that scene. The camera just sits on him in a medium as he just walks around the room, kind of pacing as he's giving this, incredibly important dialogue that makes basically so much of this third act work. And he's just killing it. And he's doing it in such a pained way. He doesn't want to say this information. He knows that by doing it, he's ruining Willoughby's reputation. Which deservedly.
But you also truly believe that he's doing it because it's going to do good for Marianne. He's like, this is why I'm doing it. And so he keeps that, it makes him a hero. It keeps him being the hero. I'm not trying to destroy anybody. I'm trying to save somebody. And you really get that feeling with his performance, the torture of it for him.
And how much is off screen? So much of Brandon's story is off screen. So it's on Rickman to convey that in the scenes we actually get to see, right? Like the moment when he gets the letter about his ward, right? Or about, the circumstances, and he just takes off. You've no idea what's going on. And then later you have to remember, oh, that's why he was the way he was then. Like it's.
But then this is the brilliance of Rickman, is what he brings into the room when the character enters a room. Like Katie said, when he walks in and he looks at Marion for the first time, he's bringing the entire backstory there, and you don't need to know anymore. You can see it all there.
But then
conversely, Hugh Grant, who, as we've said before, I'm a big fan of. Every time Edward walks into a room, it's just like, oh, I'm in a room. Another room. Because Edward doesn't really need to bring that, but you need someone like Rickman who can he's one of those actors who's so lucky that you can see everything going on in his head. You can read his mind.
When with Mrs. Jennings and they're all playing croquet, it starts to give you the backstory about Colonel Brandon. Okay. You suddenly, that one look that he gave Marianne, the first look, you're like, oh, it all makes sense. You're like, absolutely, that's what I was seeing on his face. Like, it's almost like you wouldn't have had to have any other Brandon up until that point. Just that scene and the other bits. And you would still be like, oh, I get it. Now that all makes sense. Yeah. It's so good. It's so clear.
Yeah.
Which I don't know how he does.
I also think that, and again, like in lesser hands, and by this I mean everyone involved, a scene where Marianne can't break a reed and he hands her a knife to cut it would be just, okay, fine. But there's a beauty and a simplicity to the way that everyone is doing that just it makes it all sing. It's incredible.
I know.
I really do think that Rickman's one of those guys who I just never really got his flowers when he was doing it. Do you know what I mean? Like, I think that people recognized he was a good actor. I don't mean to suggest that they didn't, but like, I think we now look back on just how good he was. And it's astonishing. It really is.
Have you guys done Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves yet?
No, we've not. Someday we'll talk about his,
and Call Off Christmas. Cough. So good.
He's really, I mean, it is one of those things where I imagine that for good or bad, a generation will think of him as Snape forever. And that's just what it is.
I mean,
and he's very good.
Very good.
He's very, very good. So I'm not taking anything away from him in that. But obviously the first time I saw him was definitely Die Hard. He's obviously incredible in Die Hard.
Is
he's
unreal.
Perfection.
So, he
is also someone who you won't hear a bad word spoken about him. Everyone kind of I met him a couple of times and he was the most delightful man. He was, he was amazing, and everyone loved him. So I think this might be the most liked cast ever
It's
assembled.
great. It really you watch this cast and you watch all these people. I mean, this is probably Kate Winslet comes into her own here. This is when she becomes. I mean, obviously Titanic is a couple years away, and then that puts her into an entirely different stratosphere. But she gets an Oscar. This is her first Oscar nomination for this film. She's nominated many, many times, and then wins for everybody's film, The Reader. Um, uh,
It is funny. I've seen that movie and I can't remember anything about it.
Yeah, I've never seen it, and I'm really okay with that. But it is she is. I mean, I definitely saw Heavenly Creatures after this, but she is so good in Heavenly Creatures. A movie,
Not if you
yeah,
ask Ang Lee, apparently.
yeah. He did not like her in that movie, but
Apparently he
it
didn't
doesn't
like her,
surprise
but
me.
didn't want her to read for Marianne.
Correct.
So
She
do you
read
think
for Lucy Steele.
she was supposed to read for
Yeah,
Lucy Steele, but she came in and lied and said her agent had sent her Marianne, so she may as well just read that.
it's the way to do it. Make it happen, Kate.
You can only do that when you're 19 and be like, fuck it. You know what I mean? Because now you're like, oh shit, I've got a mortgage to pay. No, don't. But you know,
I'll take Lucy Steele. Great. Where are the lines? Yeah, I do think that she is. I think she's great in Heavenly Creatures. It doesn't surprise me that Heavenly Creatures isn't an Ang Lee type movie. Like that doesn't, you know what I mean? Like that's just not his tempo. But she's amazing in this film. She is luminescent in this film. Like she's just radiating youth and beauty and potential and all the things that she wants you want for her.
Mm.
It is it's really lovely. The sort of she doesn't meet Willoughby until like I think it's like about a half hour into the movie, if I'm not mistaken. So for that first half hour, smartly, and this is part of the adaptation, Edward is sort of front loaded. He shows up later in the book, if I'm not mistaken.
Mm.
And the way that Emma Thompson and Ang Lee and everybody make us fall in love with Edward early, because he does disappear for a large swath of this movie, is key to the whole fucking thing working. Like if it isn't Hugh Grant, if you don't love Edward in that first half hour, the whole thing doesn't work.
But I think Hugh Grant does a lovely job. I was watching
Yes,
it
yes,
and he's this sort of very boyish,
yes.
like awkward, young, like, but it's very endearing. It's very, it is adorable. He is very, yeah, I don't know. I want to see Tom's face right now. Like, what is he, is he
Tom, Tom also adorable.
What am I doing? What am I doing?
I don't know. I'm
Just
wondering.
curious of your feelings on Hugh Grant's adorableness.
I think he's adorable.
You think he's a door?
He's
Adorable. Yeah.
I think he is adorable. Now, I was okay. My problem with this viewing of this film
Yeah.
is I hadn't seen it for a long, long time. And when I watched this, it was literally right after I had finished and recovered from the last season of White Lotus.
Sure. Okay. Uh-huh. An
And so
impressive finale.
from White Lotus, which I really loved this last season,
I know you
to
did.
go to this where it's like, oh, wow. I have to go and live in this really fucking amazing house in Devon that is probably worth about 4 million quid now, overlooking my own beach near the Jurassic Coast and surrounded by beautiful countryside. And I only get 2 servants. Oh, wow.
You don't get any beef, Tom. Beef's too expensive.
No
You don't get any
beef.
beef.
I'll admit, I did have to stop it, shake myself off, and start it again with a better attitude, because I was still in White Lotus mode, and they were all being very Jason Isaacs and Parker Posey about the whole thing.
It's true. It's true. I get that. I
But
get
on
that.
second viewing, I found Hugh Grant adorable.
I think that Hugh Grant, who and our listeners should check out this clip of Emma Thompson and Hugh Grant on Graham Norton, because it seemed as though Hugh Grant was a bit of a grump, didn't want to be there, was a very big star at this point because Four Wings and a Funeral had just come out, so now he's like blowing up, and then getting arrested, and there was also all sorts of drama in Hugh Grant's life that you do not in any way see on screen. So kudos to him for not giving off that vibe. But I do think that
it makes it even crazier, his arrest. When you watch this and you think, oh, this was this time.
It's crazy.
When he comes in his little britches, his floppy hair, and he looks so...
And his awkward stammering and his sitting in rooms and not feeling like he belongs, like all of it is just wonderful.
And then you think of the mugshot where he really is sitting awkwardly and feels like he doesn't belong.
Yeah. To our listeners, Hugh Grant was arrested for picking up a prostitute on Sunset Boulevard.
Do you know why he was actually stopped? Because he was in a parked car with her and his foot kept hitting the brake and he kept flashing his brake lights. And that's why the cop went and had a look. Oh, God. Because obviously he was with the
engaged.
Yeah. So that was
interesting. Well, listen, I guess turn off your car, guys, in the future if you're just it was a weird time for him, but he's wonderful in this film, and I think that him and Emma Thompson have tremendous chemistry. They're just adorable together. You want nothing but for them to end up together, even if Harriet Walter is going out of her way to make sure that they are not together. It's wonderful. I do just want to kind of hone in on Emma Thompson for a quick second here. At this point or this juncture in her career, as everyone probably knows, she was married to Kenneth Branagh for quite some time, and they made some movies together. Everything was hunky-dory until it wasn't. Sounds like Kenneth Branagh, I don't know, maybe a bit of a dink. Hard to say. That's what I've gleaned.
Have another sip of water.
I do.
It seems as though they basically did a bunch of things together. They did Dead Again together, which I think is a super underrated movie that I think more people should watch. It's about past lives and a murder that happened. It's really, really well done. It's a great thriller. She obviously wins for Howard's End. Then she is in Much Ado About Nothing with everyone.
Please, can we talk about Much Ado About Nothing?
How hot everyone is in that movie.
But also, there's so much about it that is great. And then there's there's a man that I feel can do no wrong, and I love him, and I will watch him in everything. Sure. But Keanu Reeves in Shakespeare, I think...
knew you were going to say that.
And I love Keanu. Like, I love Keanu.
Sure.
And I think he's wonderful. Slightly think he was miscast there.
He was having a bit of a moment of being miscast. He was also in Dracula, a movie that we talked about as well, Tom, on our 92 podcast. I think...
I love him in Dracula. Sorry.
I think he's great in Dracula. I think everyone's just being snooty assholes. I think it's Dracula and Much Ado About Nothing are back to back for him. And I think critics were just being like, stop. But there are...
But now he's doing Beckett.
Yes,
genius.
With Alex Winter.
He's doing Waiting for Godot.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
It's going to be amazing.
I mean, it's either going to be amazing or awful, but I want to see it either way.
I mean, I love that it's Bill and Ted doing Godot. I don't know what that looks like, but I'm into it. There are shots in Much Ado About Nothing of the cast where you're just like, oh, so everyone is just in peak form here. Like they all look incredible.
And also, they're all out there in Tuscany. They're in the most beautiful costumes in that house. It's sunny. It's pictures of that's why I wanted to be an actor.
Yeah, I mean,
who doesn't want to be Denzel in that movie? I mean, it's just it's unbelievable.
He was cool though. He was so cool.
So cool. But yeah, she's in that. She's in Remains of the Day and In the Name of the Father. That's 93 for Emma Thompson. It is Much Ado About Nothing, Remains of the Day, In the Name of the Father. Just absolutely killing it. Then she does Junior.
Come on, I love Junior. Come on.
Listen, I can't wait to have you guys on to talk about fucking Junior one day. That movie's a nightmare.
Wrong. It's so wrong. I know.
It is. There is a moment for our listeners. Probably Junior has been forgotten to time. I keep waiting for Junior to get like reassessed online and everyone be like, Junior's not that bad or some shit like that, which I'm sure Katie will jump on board with. But I do.
I love a bad movie, guys. I love a bad movie. I can't help it.
There is a moment in Junior, which is about Arnold Schwarzenegger getting pregnant, where he punches a doctor and says, "My body, my choice." So I just.
That's right. I forgot. Oh my God, I forgot that.
So that movie is questionable, is all I gotta say. But and then she follows it up with this. And then she wins an Academy Award for Best Screenplay. And then, she's amazing. I want to talk Ang Lee for a second. A filmmaker who, God bless him, takes swings and sometimes whiffs, but other times just absolutely kills it. This is his first English film. He does a bunch of Taiwanese films. Wedding Banquet is what kind of got him on the producer of Sense and Sensibility's radar and was like, maybe I think that this works.
Have you seen it?
I have. It's a good movie. Yeah. There's a remake coming out later this
year. It's a romantic comedy, is it?
It is. Yeah. It's a really lovely film. Ang Lee talks about, there's a great quote from him where he said, I thought they were crazy. I was brought up in Taiwan. What do I know about 19th century England?